evening. Welcome to the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting for Tuesday, December 1st. It's 5:30, a little past 5:30. First of all, we have a disclosure before we even get started. Do we want to start on that right now, Commissioner Bagwell?
No, we'll do it when we get to the agenda item.
Okay. So first of all, a roll call.
Chairperson Long.
Here.
Vice Chair Keever.
Here.
Commissioner Adams.
Here.
Commissioner Bagwell.
Here.
Commissioner Cassiopa. Commissioner Coburn.
Here.
Commissioner Curtis.
Here.
Commissioner Glenn. Commissioner Lehman.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Thank you. First of all, is there any public comment? Anybody from the public has anything they'd like to say? All right. For possible action on approval of minutes from October 6th, 2015, do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I move to approve the minutes of October 6, 2015 as presented.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Any modifications to the agenda? It's probably a pretty quick one tonight. Anything, Roger?
No modifications from staff.
Okay. So we're to 3A, and Commissioner Bagwell has a bit of a disclosure.
Thank you. NRS 281A 420 requires me to disclose conflicts of interest. Item 3A affects my commitment in a private capacity to the interests of the Foundation for Carson City Parks and Recreation, Inc., as I serve on its board of directors. Therefore, a reasonable person in my position would be materially affected by this relationship, and because this is a disqualifying conflict of interest, I will be abstaining from voting on this matter.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I too serve on the Foundation for Carson City Parks and Recs, and therefore, following Lori's language, I will too have to abstain.
Okay.
I'm Donna Curtis, and I'm also on the board of the foundation. I have talked with council, and it's, I believe, okay if I make some comments, but I will not be voting on it or making any summation in favor or against.
Just to clarify, she's going to be asking a couple of questions on the topic, but as she said.
Okay. So I think that still means we have a quorum, so if we wanted to pass anything on the Board of Supervisors, that should be appropriate, correct? Okay. And I guess, one note, is there anybody else on the Board of Supervisors that you know of that are a part of that as well? Okay. Okay, so all that being said, Roger, did you have something that you wanted to say regarding?
Yeah, I'll be happy to kick this off. I mean, I have a very short staff report. I thought I'd just read that. And David Bugley's in the audience here. I may ask David if you would like to come up to the table up here, right up there. And David is with the new foundation as well, and I guess maybe one of the principal authors of their new bylaws and part of this lease, working with the city attorneys as well. And so David is here. He can answer he and I can try to answer any questions that the commission may have. So anyhow, to kick it off, the Foundation for the Betterment of Parks and Recreation, that's the former foundation, has been dissolved. A new foundation has been created by some of the former members of the old one. The new foundation is called the Foundation for Carson City Parks and Recreation, Inc. It is a registered nonprofit charitable civic organization with the state of Nevada. Its purpose is for raising funds and investing those funds into various park, recreation, and open space projects and programs. The old foundation had a lease agreement with the city for the use of the Wanganema House. And of course, I know you know where the Wanganema House is, but I guess for the audience and people who may be watching this on television, the Wanganema House is a historic stone structure on the east end of Mills Park. The new foundation would like to continue this practice. Therefore, attached as Exhibit A is a proposed lease agreement between the City of Carson City and the Foundation for Carson City Parks and Recreation, Inc. for the use of the Wanganema House. Staff is requesting that the Park and Recreation Commission review the proposed lease and make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for the approval. And also, for your information, attached as Exhibit B are the bylaws for the new foundation. And Basically, the lease is similar to what was held by between the city and the old foundation. There's been a few changes to it, not a whole lot of substantive changes, but a few. Rather than going through and reading this point by point, I assume you've all had an opportunity to look at the lease, and if you have any questions, as I mentioned before, David and I would try to answer the questions. So.
Okay, yeah, I've kind of skimmed it over. And mainly, the only question I had was, I was just curious about the $1 rent. And I believe that might maybe be a normal thing, but could you elaborate on why it would only be $1? And I guess part of what made me think of it is most other facilities that are used even for nonprofits are typically rented at some rate and not for $1 per year, so.
Well, this is a lease agreement between the city organization and a nonprofit organization. Really, the purpose of this, the advantage to the city is that the foundation will be in charge of managing the facility. We do have a couple people, organizations, at least one organization that uses it on a regular basis. They will be our contact, the foundation will be. It's an opportunity for the Park and Recreation Department not to have to be involved in this, that the foundation takes over that role. And as a result, it's a very gratuitous lease amount, knowing that they are providing a service for the department. And generally, it's kind of more of a, I guess, more of a tradition than probably a law. And I'm kind of looking over at Iris here that generally leases have some kind of value to them. And in the past, it's been you have to have some kind of a in-kind or a value associated in the lease. That may be archaic now, but it's kind of traditional that in this kind of a sense, you put a very gratuitous level, $1 or $10, you know, on an annual basis.
What are the other things that the, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. Wanganima.
Uh-huh.
What are the other activities that are involved there that this affiliation, I guess, wouldn't have?
One of the stipulations in the lease is that because it is a historic structure, that the leasee has agreed that they will open the Wanganima House to the public at least 12 times during the year. Very small house, as you know. It doesn't take very long to tour it. But, you know, that again is a service that they provide for the Park and Recreation Department in doing that. There are a couple of nonprofit organizations that deal with substance abuse, and they have their regular meetings held at in that facility as well. So again, a public service.
Sure. Commissioner Curtis.
Thank you. Just want to comment on a couple of things. The Wanganima House, in my opinion, is kind of a quiet little gem that the city has, and I don't think that many people really know about it. It's a lovely little place. It's got a nice living area, and it's got a little kitchen and a dining room, and it's a perfect place if you're a nonprofit organization and you're looking for a place to meet. It's a nice little place to meet, and I just want to comment on that hopefully with the new foundation, and I didn't realize we're supposed to do something 12 times a year. I guess we'll have to figure out what that is, but we can encourage people to make use of it because it's really a great place, and hopefully, with the current people that are using it now, we can make arrangements so it's easy on everyone. But we really appreciate how they've been taking care of it, and I just look forward to seeing more use for it. Thank you.
I might maybe add to the comments that Commissioner Curtis just made too, that the other benefit that we get out of this is that the foundation will be taking care of the inside of the house and kind of the sort of the light maintenance housekeeping part of it, and the city will still remain with the possibility or with the responsibility of maintaining the exterior of the house, the large maintenance items of the house.
Any other questions, comments? Public comment?
Well, first, hi, this is David Bugley. I am president of the Foundation for the Betterment of Carson City Parks and Recreation, FCCPR. I would like to make a comment about Wagnema House. This building was built in the 1950s by Burton Wagnema and for his family. I think he had 5 boys and 3 girls who lived in this little house. And he raised them there. Burton came to this area. He was Hopi Indian. The building on the inside has certain artifacts on the stonework. He and his father were stonemasons that reflect the Hopi culture. It's very interesting to see. On the old foundation operated for a while with the Historical Society, Carson City Historical Society, and when we decided to close to dissolve the old foundation, that we've stopped that arrangement. However, when we get things up and running with our own website, I'm going to transfer some pages from that website which have the history of the Wagnema House, including some interior shots to show how nice it is in there. The building has some practical limits. We limit some of the use of the kitchen because there have been some problems with ants, and we have to make sure that anybody who uses the place has been very good about cleaning up. I have to admit that the people who use it, basically under the supervision of a woman named Joanna Medina, she ensures that place is clean at all times. They come in, they'll spend maybe 2 hours on one of their substance abuse sessions, and by the time they left, it's all clean. I'll go in there about once a month, check up on it, and it's always in very good condition. If there are any problems, I get contacted. If there are things happening, if we had one problem with the heating system, I think, at one time, and they contacted the Parks and Recreation Department, because that was one of the things that they are responsible for. Parks and Rec is responsible for the heating system. And so anyhow, we're very happy with how people have been using this place. At least I have been happy because I served as president of the old foundation too. Some of the work that went into this building, a lot of the sweat equity was done by Fred Stanio, who was my predecessor as president of the old foundation, and Chuck Salisbury, and they brought this up to standards. So those of you who have been in Carson City for a number of years probably know that that place was used as the haunted house and on Halloween time, and it's probably not the best use of it. It probably doesn't leave the best image among the young people in the community, and we're glad that we brought it up to this wonderful quality. It has when we don't have a drought, there's a little stream that runs right by it, and the people who are looking, especially these women, mostly women, who are dealing with their substance abuse, find it's a very tranquil place for them to resolve the issues in their lives through the sessions that are going on there. And so I think it's a very appropriate use. I think it's one of the most charming places within walking distance of downtown that's available to the public. So I hope you will approve the idea of, approve that the new foundation continues to run this with the in conjunction with the Parks and Recreation Department. I'm going to I have two other statements. The new foundation is taking over some of the functions. We are a new foundation. We do have a new bylaws. We have mostly new officers, and our major focus is probably going to be to be an umbrella organization for nonprofit, for organizations that want to raise funds to do projects in the Parks and Recreation area, but do not want to go through the whole process of getting 501(c)(3) status. We are set up to set up a line item to receive funds and distribute funds, receive funds when they do fundraising events, and distribute funds to the Parks and Recreation Department when they have to do design work, construction work, and such. Another function we've taken over from the old foundation is the memorial wall, which is on the east end of the Marvtex Air Plaza. And there, each year, the Parks and Recreation Department and the whatever foundation it is at the time have acknowledged usually four recipients of awards: Volunteer of the Year, Volunteers of the Year, Business of the Year, Organization of the Year. Plus, we have a place where people can memorialize their loved ones, who most of them have passed. We put one live person's name up there about a year ago. We didn't know at the time that she was alive, but somebody wanted to memorialize that person. So we're carrying on basically kind of three functions that the old foundation had. That's about all I have to say on that, but I will try to answer questions as best I can, if there are any.
Yeah, thank you, David. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Anybody willing to make a motion?
I'd like to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors recommend that the Board of Supervisors a new lease agreement for the use of the Waganema House by the Foundation for Carson City Parks and Recreation, Inc.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. So you have 4 yeses and 3 abstains.
4 yes. Oh, I second. Thank you, David. Thank you.
May I make one last comment?
Sure.
I think the pronunciation of the name is Wagnema. I don't think there's an E in the middle of the name. So I know everybody wants to say Wagnema, so I think in respect to the Wagnema family, several of who still live in Carson City, I think would be good to make sure we are saying it properly.
Wagnema is
Wagnema.
Excuse me, David, my brother-in-law was a Wanganema, and that's how he always pronounced it. So I just grew up listening to him, so, it's probably 6 or 1/2 the dozen.
Well, maybe that's it. And maybe anybody want to call me Bujime? That's the Italian pronunciation of my name.
Well, thank you. Moving on to item 3B is a discussion only on chemical control applications by the Parks Division. Welcome, Scott.
Hey, Scott.
For the record, Scott Fahrenbrook, Deputy Director. This item was requested by Commissioner Curtis at the October 6th meeting. And the first thing I'd like to do is just review what our current pesticide and herbicide application program is. The philosophy we use, and it's adopted throughout our industry, it's called IPM, Integrated Pest Management. And basically what integrated pest management means is we only apply chemicals whenever and wherever needed. We use any other means possible, culturally, mechanically, anything that we can do before we resort to using any kind of pesticides or herbicides. So our department has always followed that philosophy along with a lot of other parks departments nationwide. We have certified pesticide applicators with the Nevada Department of Ag, so all of our spraying and chemical applications are done by certified applicators. So they know what they're doing, they know how to mix it, they know how to apply it, they know what the product's risks are, they know where they can apply it, wind conditions and safety measures that they need to take. We keep concise records of any type of spraying that we do, And that's a requirement for these folks to keep their certification with the Nevada Department of Ag. So if there's ever a question of where we sprayed, what time we sprayed, the speed of the wind, the temperature, any of that, we log all of that and we keep that in our records so that if we ever have an allegation or if we ever have an issue, we can always pull those records up and talk to the individual or talk to whoever needs to get that information. You have in your packet what we call our policy, the 4 W's, and that is when, what, and what areas. It's when, where, what, and why. Let me get that right. When, where, what, and why. And basically what that does is we train our folks to talk to the individuals and park users when they show up at a park. And if there are people in the park, we talk to them and tell them when the application is going to begin. We tell them what areas of the park are going to be affected. We tell them what product we are using in the park, and we tell them why it is necessary to use that product and why we are out there to do it. Also, if you look in that policy memo, which was dated in 2003, which we still use the exact same policy because it seems to work, is that if for whatever reason a park user is uncomfortable with us being there and applying chemicals when they're there, we pull off. We just pull off and we come back at a later date and do it. And that will become less of a problem as we move forward, because the one thing that we implemented this last fall is we are now posting parks. So if we're going to be going to Sonoma Park's a good example. It's a dog-friendly park. A lot of people are really concerned because their pets are there and they don't want us spraying herbicides or even applying fertilizers and you know, thinking that their dog is going to get sick, which is a rarity, but it's still a valid concern. So we've gone to a policy now where we post parks. We will come in the day before. We will post the day that we are applying, the time that we're going to be there, and what we're applying at the park. So that was something that we agreed to do after discussing it with the organic pesticide folks, which I'll get to a little bit later. I believe Commissioner Curtis relayed a story on at the October 6th meeting about she was at a park and employees were there spraying at the same time that she was there, and they were getting pretty close. I just wanted to say that'd be a direct violation of all of our policies. So if we, based on the policies that I just outlined to you folks, if our employees are showing up at a park, spraying around people, and not informing people of what's going on, and not giving them the opportunity, you know, to have us vacate the park if they feel uncomfortable with it, depending on what that product is. That would be a clear violation, and you know, we would encourage people, if that ever happens, to contact our department and we'll deal with it, because that would be a direct violation. They'd be subject to disciplinary action if we found out that were the case, because they're trained to know better than that. So that's our existing policies. What we are looking at now are organic herbicides and pesticides. The city of Reno has adopted a policy where the only products that they use in their parks now are based on organic products and not synthetic products. We've had the same discussions with the folks from Washington, D.C., which their name is Beyond Pesticides. They're the same folks that contacted us and have had discussions with the city of Reno. And what we've done with this group is we've gone through training with them. They've come out and taken soil tests of our parks. And we've been working with them to see what kind of products they have, what the recommendations are. And then if you notice the letter that I sent to the folks at Beyond Pesticides, we have established a test park, which is John Mankins Park in the Silver Oak development. John Mankins Park, if you recall, is a 4-acre park. It's got a basketball court, tennis court, skateboard park. It's got shelters. It's got a playground, a small ball field, and a pretty good-sized 3-acre turf area. So it's a good test pilot for these products because it's a heavily used park, and probably, I would guess, one of our most popular, if not the most popular neighborhood park that we have. So we have agreed with the help of the Beyond Pesticides folks that we would have an indefinite period where we would use nothing but solely organic products at this park. And one of the things we want to track, of course, is the effectiveness of these products. Are they going to kill the weeds and give us the turf that the citizens expect and that folks want and that, they've grown to, become accustomed to? The other thing is we want to track the budget that we use for this park and collect data, because we do understand that organic pesticides and herbicides are significantly more expensive than the synthetic variety. There will be budget implications were we to say that we were going to go ahead and treat all parks with these same products. So we want to track not only the effectiveness of it, but also the budget implications and the manpower too. There's going to be more manpower expended in these parks because we're going to be using more cultural means and mechanical means to deal with the weeds versus the chemical means. So once we have that data, we can expand the program. We could go beyond John Mankins Park. We could go to some of the other parks and just continue to expand. We could go the wholesale route, just like the city of Reno did, and have all parks, be subject to organic pesticides and not use synthetic pesticides. So again, what we want to do right now is we just want to have it as a test park and see where it goes and collect the information. And that way, we can give the Board of Supervisors, we can give the Park and Recreation Commission, we can give anybody that needs to know a detailed report as to what we need, why we need it, and if we do have to supplement our budget, they're going to expect that information. So with that, I would entertain any questions.
Commissioner Curtis.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Scott, I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what I was saying in October, but there were two things that happened coincidentally. One was the article in the paper about what Reno was doing that you just mentioned. But before that, there were a bunch of us, dog owners, sitting in the park and talking about this. And I don't know if anybody observed anything or we were just saying, gee, they're out there spraying and what's the effect on the animal, et cetera. But when the two came hand in hand, then I asked if, we could have this discussion just because kind of wanted to be reassured that, I can't imagine that anybody would be spraying something out there that would harm even pets. Hopefully, you know how dogs are, they're going to get their nose into all the weeds, so to speak, and so even if you applied something and they went, 5 minutes later, they'd be in it. So I just wanted to make sure that, whatever it is we're using is relatively safe. And then secondly, if there is another option, such as what they're doing in Reno, it will be interesting to see what you find out in terms of cost versus benefit. But really appreciate your bringing this forward and explaining it to us, and hopefully whatever way it goes, it'll work out.
Commissioner Lehman.
So it sounds like the people that are most concerned here are pet owners. So I'm wondering, John Mankin's a great place, 3 acres of turf like you're talking about. Would it be good to have the test park be a dog-friendly park? Because there are no dogs allowed at John Mankin's.
We're looking at that. The next test park, if we do expand, is going to be Sonoma Park. We had the Beyond Pesticides folks come out and do some soil tests at Sonoma Park as well, and that's a possibility. The products that we use, we're not really too concerned about the synthetic products that we use on pets as far as pet dangers go, because we apply it per the manufacturer's recommendation. And like I said, we use our certified applicators. So there's, the dosages, the way we mix our products and the way we apply them, I don't think that the pet owners need to worry. And given the fact that we're going to start posting these parks, not only regular parks, but dog-friendly parks, that's going to go a long way towards alleviating people's concerns. But yeah, we could have selected a pet-friendly park, but the reason we didn't do that, to be honest with you, is if you go by Sonoma Park, you can see the damage that the pets do to the grass. And we want to have a fair test evaluation of a park. And we don't want to have a bunch of other factors to say, to where we come back and go, well, we don't like the way the grass looks, and we're getting all these complaints, so we don't want to use organic products. I would be concerned that if we picked a park like Sonoma Park where we have heavy dog usage, that taints, the results of the test that we want to do. And so I would just as soon use a park like John Mankins Park where we don't have those issues.
So then I guess the other question is if the application's not harmful to pets as is, what's the big benefit of using organic, other than organic is kind of the buzzword nowadays, but
Well,
it sounds like the cost is quite a bit more, so.
There's a large contingent of people out there that believe that the synthetic pesticides and herbicides are a carcinogen. There's a large group of people that believes that it causes all kinds of other health problems. You have arguments on both sides of the fence on that. You have the argument from the industry and, of course, from the product manufacturers and suppliers that say if you use the product according to how they regulate the product and according to manufacturers' recommendations, it's not a hazard. But yet, you got the folks in Reno that were concerned about it, and they decided to go the other route. The one thing I will mention with the city of Reno is their budget was cut so severely that they really weren't putting very many weed control products down anyway. So it wasn't a big impact to them. It will be a big impact to us if we lose the quality of our sports complexes, for example, and we don't bring in the tournaments that we want to bring in because of the appearance of our sports complexes, because we can't maintain them because they're full of weeds. We have to just be assured that these products are going to do what we want to do as far as effectively controlling weeds as well as being safe. We definitely want to have our cake and eat it too, because right now we are very successful with the synthetic pesticide products, and we haven't, as far as I know, we haven't really had any safety issues that have been brought to our attention.
Yeah, I guess my 2 cents is if we're very successful with those products and they've been proven to be safe with pets and we can prove they're not carcinogens, that there'd be no reason to pay more for something else.
Let me kind of chime in here too a little bit. There's getting to be more and more concerns about inorganic materials and products and that, and the effect it may have on our daily lives that we're not even aware of. And there has been accusations that inorganic synthetic pesticides may be contributing to the decline in bee populations, honeybee populations, monarch butterflies, autism, rates within the human population, and on and on and on. There's been some research done on both sides of the issue, and sometimes you run into this conflicting research that shows that this may be the case, and other research shows that it's not the case. But it's just like any other issue that we have today, whether that is pro wild horses or against wild horses. It's becoming a very hot topic, and so we think it makes sense to at least test it and see. If we can get the same results using organic products, and it doesn't result in significantly higher costs or a decline in the quality of our turf in our parks, it might be a good thing to do. And we're not going to know that until we really test it.
And that was the point I was going to make too. If all things being equal, we would rather put down organic products any day than the synthetic products. I wouldn't need certified applicators if all of our products were organic products. Anybody could do it, and that would be the most environmentally friendly and safe way to do it. Then there wouldn't be any question. Right now, we use synthetic products, but we have no problem trying and applying the organic products, and would like to see how they do.
Scott, are there specific things you're targeting as far as trying to eliminate, or is it a pretty broad-based approach, I guess, to weed control?
It's pretty broad. In Carson City, we have a lot of spurge, we have a lot of clover, we have a lot of dandelions. Some of the weeds that we control are strictly appearance related. Some of them are safety related, like goat heads and puncture vine. You know, those are, if anybody uses the trails, you know, or rides a bike on a trail, you certainly don't want puncture vine to take control. So we use pre-emergent products. Those are products that keep the seed from germinating to become a weed. And we use a lot of post-emergent products too, but we use it on trails, we use it on turf, we use it on non-turf areas. We even use some products on our natural areas too. But the thing with us is the IPM, and I can't drive that home enough, is that if you just use those products when you absolutely have to, we never go out and just say, we're going to go spray all the parks. If we have a problem, we're going to go deal with it. But we're not going to go out and just treat things that don't need to be treated. Number one, it's not a prudent and ethical thing to do, and number two, we don't have the budget to do it anyway.
I can tell you that early in Scott and I's career, we remember times when you just had set dates you went out and sprayed, and you just did it as a preventive method, you know, and without really, you know, understanding if you really have a problem out there. And those days through IPM, integrated pest management, have long gone. I do want to bring up a point too, that not necessarily in our developed parks, but in some of our natural areas, our open space areas, and our undeveloped parks, you know, we have used other techniques such as sheep grazing on cheatgrass, and we've used goats to you know, for noxious weed control as well too. So it's a pretty wide spectrum that we have in pest management within our department.
Commissioner Colburn.
So I think we've talked around it a bit, but I think it would be prudent to figure out, like, what are you really evaluating and, like, sort it, right? Like, because it sounds like to me you've got a few, it's budget, it's appearance, but what's that list so that you have, like, that complete case? So I don't know what that all turns into, but it's one to n number of things, right?
Sure, we're going to track manpower. How much more manpower does it take per unit, and whether that unit is 1,000 square feet or an acre? How much more manpower does it take to maintain a park at the same level that you would maintain a park that you use the synthetic pesticides and herbicides at? We're going to track the product cost itself, you know, how much we're spending per acre on John Mankins Park versus per acre that we're spending on another park, say Mills Park, and take a look at those numbers. And, you know, we really want to make an educated decision and give the organic pesticides and herbicides a fair shot, you know, rather than just say, no, we don't want to try it and we don't want to do it. I don't think that would be a prudent thing to do. We want to give it a try, see how it is, and then evaluate the facts. If it's going to cost twice as much to maintain the same amount of area, it may not be feasible for Carson City to do that.
Yeah, I think that you hit a sleeper one too with, like, your equipment and, like, your roll forward on your equipment. Like, that's big dollars probably.
So I'm wondering what you're talking about sounds great. Now we're going to compare here and there. That's got to have been done somewhere else, or we're the first ones that are going to make a comparison between organic and inorganic.
I've looked on the internet, and the most concise report that I saw was the city of Portland, Oregon, and their budget shot through the roof when they did it, but they probably have more money than we do. So, but they didn't wholesale go to organic products either, but they do have, they did do some test plots as far as test parks, just like we're doing with John Mankins Park. You know, and every place is different. So
I guess one thing is if you do a proper comparison, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to want to see what you did, not just this city.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want.
Sure. And to be fair with the folks who advocate the organic products, what you're doing is you're rebuilding the soil with the microbes that as you keep weaning the soil and the living vegetation off of synthetic pesticides, what you're actually doing is you're creating an environment where you're going to create less weeds and you're going to create more competition for those weeds. So they're saying, yep, go ahead and try it, and it's going to cost you a lot more at the outset, but in the long run, you're going to use a lot less product, you're going to use less manpower, and your park is going to help maintain itself because it's going to be a more healthy growing environment. So it's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, it's going to take probably at least through the growing seasons next year to really see what we want to do and what the effects are, but we're going to give it a fair shot and see what happens.
Commissioner Curtis?
Yeah, I was just going to say deja vu all over again. I went to school environmental studies in the 70s, and this was all big issue then. It's interesting that it's still kind of being discussed as to, what if and what should be done. But you wouldn't have your sprayers being qualified or having certificates. You wouldn't be worried about the wind. Because when, in those days and before that, it was just get out there and spray the heck out of everything. Didn't matter. In fact, they used to have spray trucks, I was told, in Texas, where the stuff would be coming out of the back for mosquitoes, and the kids would be running down the street behind the trucks because they liked the stuff that was coming out and playing in it. So times have changed. And so where we go from then till now, certainly have come a long ways, but it's interesting that we're still discussing some of the same thing.
Like any other topic. Anyway, yeah, thank you. I think it's time to move on, but I appreciate you coming and giving us an update. I'm interested to see what the results are in the spring, maybe next fall or something.
Yeah, we'll come back and let you know.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Public comment. Got no public comment. Items 4A, multipurpose athletic center project and grand opening ceremony.
Yeah. The MAC project is progressing along nicely, and I know there's been some interest by members of the Park and Rec Commission to see the building and do a tour. I'm happy to try to arrange that. I know Brett and I's schedule hasn't worked out very well, but if you're interested in doing that, drop me an email and I'll try to make arrangements. We'd like to do it kind of on 2 or 3 individuals at a time. But the project is moving along. Our grand opening is now set for Wednesday, December 30th, and it's going to be at 2 p.m. And some of the updates, the wood floor is about 99.9% installed. I was just went through the building yesterday. I took a couple people from Australia on a tour of the facility, and they found it very interesting. In Australia, you have very few indoor facilities because they really don't have winter out there in most parts of Australia, at least the part of Australia these folks are from. So they were kind of really amazed by the investment, I guess, this community is making into that facility. The wood floor looks terrific. It hasn't been finished yet, but it's been laid. It looks really nice. The indoor walking track is not installed yet. We have to wait for the moisture content in the concrete base to get to a certain point before we can lay that. But they've been working on the landscaping. They were pouring concrete yesterday and covering it. A lot of work is being done, so it's a busy little place. But again, I'd be happy to take anybody that wants to, or has an interest in doing a little tour through that. We'd certainly try to arrange that and be a little bit more successful than we've been in trying to line things up. But any questions? Oh, but I do want to mention too that in addition to that, kind of associated with the MAC, we have had 2 very productive meetings with the Boys and Girls Club. As you know, the joint use agreement stipulates that the city and the Boys and Girls Club will meet at least quarterly to talk about schedules and operational use of the facility. And we just had a meeting today, our second meeting with them today. And we kind of set out sort of a little bit of a, for lack of better other terminology, a process or protocol how to submit our scheduling requests. Basically, they're submitting scheduling requests to us, and to evaluate the use of the facility and how we're going to proceed into the future with that. And it looks to me like we're going to have a very congenial and seamless process to work with them. So good signs there working with the Boys and Girls Club.
So my quick question is this Wednesday, December 30th, is that the soft opening, or are we going to be ready to roll 100% open at that point?
Well, originally we were going to be open on, I think it was December 17th, was it? 16th, yes, thank you. And that was going to be kind of a soft opening. And then we were actually not going to open the facility for another 2 weeks, so we're going to kind of roll right with this opening. A hard opening. Yep.
Any other questions? Commissioner Adams?
I was over at a function this morning at the Boys and Girls Club, and they spoke very highly of staff and the city, and talking about the their multi-use agreement, and they're definitely excited over there.
Public comment. Moving on to 5A. Well, Joe's not here, so we don't have any updates from the school board. Does anybody else have any announcements or requests for information?
I do.
Commissioner Kieber.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Roger? I noticed the ice rink's up and running. It looks pretty darn good. I can hear the music at night.
Sounds pretty good.
I don't mind it. I think it's great, but I can't speak for the other neighbors. I only had one concern. We had the snow over the weekend, and when I was walking the dogs past it this weekend, I noticed that the sidewalks were not shoveled yet, and I was just worried about people taking a header on it. And I don't know if we would be responsible for shoveling the snow or the Nugget would be. So maybe we could get together and make sure if we get another snowstorm.
Hopefully we are going to get a lot more snow. And typically, the sidewalk that's immediately adjacent to the ice skating rink, we take care of, but we'll check into that. We did have a little problem on the very first opening, on the opening day, that our Zamboni was not running properly, and so the ice was a little bit rough in the morning. We got the Zamboni working later on in the afternoon and put down a layer of water, and it kind of smoothed things out, and the ice has been good. We were a little bit concerned about meeting the deadline because the worst things for an outdoor ice skating rink are leaves falling out of trees onto the ice, because the leaves are warm and they'll melt right into the ice and cause an uneven surface. Rain, which we had a big rainstorm, right before the rink was open, and then wind, and then the sun. The sun will actually just kind of chew the. Luckily, we haven't had too much sun, but we've got pretty good ice out there, and it's been heavily used.
Well, I can see when I walk past, everybody who's out there skating has big smiles on their face, and they look as though they're enjoying themselves.
Any other announcements? Commissioner Lemon?
Okay, so this is announcement and school board at the same time, and I wore my shirt here. This Sunday is the California International Marathon. I've been working with one of the seniors at the school. Kendra Holloway's her name, Senior Project. She's running her first marathon. Her mom, Rhonda Holloway. CMS teachers running it. Joe Thornburg, a CHS teacher. Wyatt Cartier, a CHS grad from last year. And my boy, 7th grader at CMS. They're all running in the marathon this Sunday. So I was kind of looking at that, and there's a pretty good involvement from the school district there. And Nicole Castens, who we all know from Parks and Rec, is also running in that. So that's kind of a big event. It's kind of our local marathon. Got a lot of involvement from the school district. It's a big deal for these folks, so good luck to all of them. And there's probably some folks in the community doing that I'm not aware of, and good luck to them also.
Run fast. Yeah. Any other comments? Future agenda items? Commissioner Bagwell.
So when will we have a report on how we did with the fair?
Yeah, that's my question.
I beat you to it?
Oh.
Okay.
That's all right.
We're having conversations with our fair manager right now. We just want to make sure that, believe it or not, we're still paying some of the bills, as they come in. But we want to make sure that she has, we've got a little bit, and very minor, but a little bit of discrepancy in some of our numbers, and so we've contacted her, and we want to make sure we get all those straightened out before we bring it to you, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
A couple of questions, too. I was just looking at the minutes for October. There's a couple of things besides the fair. It had to do with discussion on the local fields, the use of plastic fencing around Edmonds Park, et cetera, and something to bring back as a future agenda item, because didn't want to get off topic, because of the Open Meeting Act. Is that something that,
I thought.
or did we resolve that, maybe?
Yeah, I thought that had to do with the fee structure thing.
November's meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, then I missed that.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, I was in, I won't tell you what happened to me in Jerusalem, but anyway, it was interesting. Okay, good.
Sure.
Took care of that one. And then, let's see, we talked about maybe having a report to the Board of Supervisors, an annual report in December. Are we still going to try to do that, or?
We actually discussed that last month as well.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah, if you, after the meeting, if you want, we can discuss it.
Okay, yeah, I guess I just didn't get a packet or something. Maybe if I can just get a packet, that'd be great.
Sure, okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Future agenda items? Public comment? For possible action on adjournment?
So moved.
Any second? Oh, we don't need a second. PR.
Merry Christmas to you all, too.